From 1948 to 1994, a white minority ruled over the black African majority, enforcing a system designed to oppress and dehumanize. Laws were crafted to ensure that the black majority remained subservient, their rights stripped away, their voices silenced. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a stark reminder of the lengths to which humanity can go to divide and conquer. It's a chapter in our collective past that shows the depths of human cruelty and the heights of human resilience. It's a story about the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable cruelty. Despite the oppressive laws and brutal enforcement, the spirit of resistance burned bright. People stood up, spoke out, and fought back, often at great personal risk. Imagine a world where your worth is determined by the color of your skin. A world where the very essence of your being is judged not by your character or abilities, but by the pigmentation of your skin. This was not a dystopian fiction but a harsh reality for millions, where you live, work, and even love are dictated by race. Entire communities were divided, families torn apart, and friendships forbidden. The places you could call home were restricted, the jobs you could hold were limited, and the people you could love were chosen for you by an oppressive regime. This was the brutal reality of apartheid in South Africa, a system of racial segregation and discrimination that lasted for almost 50 years. It was a time when the streets echoed with the footsteps of segregation, and the air was thick with the tension of enforced separation. From 1948 to 1994, a white minority ruled over the black African majority, enforcing a system designed to oppress and dehumanize. Laws were crafted to ensure that the black majority remained subservient, their rights stripped away, their voices silenced. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a stark reminder of the lengths to which humanity can go to divide and conquer. It's a chapter in our collective past that shows the depths of human cruelty and the heights of human resilience. It's a story about the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable cruelty. Despite the oppressive laws and brutal enforcement, the spirit of resistance burned bright. People stood up, spoke out, and fought back, often at great personal risk. It's about the fight for freedom and equality, a fight that continues to shape South Africa today. The struggle for justice and equality didn't end with the fall of apartheid. It continues in the hearts and minds of those who strive for a better future. The world watched in horror as a nation tore itself apart, the ugliness of racism laid bare for all to see. International pressure mounted and the global community rallied against the injustices, showing solidarity with those who suffered under the regime. Apartheid was a stark reminder of what happens when hatred and prejudice are allowed to fester. It showed us the destructive power of bigotry and the importance of standing up against injustice, no matter where it occurs. This is the story of apartheid South Africa, a story that must never be forgotten. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a warning of the dangers of allowing hatred to rule. Let us remember, reflect, and ensure that such a dark chapter in history is never repeated. At the heart of apartheid was a simple yet devastating idea: racial superiority. The white minority, making up a small percentage of the population, believed they were better than black Africans. This belief permeated every aspect of society. The Population Registration Act of 1950 classified every citizen by race. This wasn't just about labels, it was about control. Your race determined where you could live, work, and even travel. Black Africans were treated as second-class citizens in their own land. They were denied basic human rights, their movements restricted, their voices silenced. The government enforced this system with an iron fist, using violence and intimidation to maintain control. Apartheid was a system built on fear and oppression, designed to keep the black majority powerless. Imagine being told where you can live based solely on the color of your skin. Under apartheid, black South Africans were forced to live in segregated townships, cut off from economic opportunities and basic services. These townships were overcrowded with poor housing, sanitation, and healthcare. Black people were denied access to quality education and healthcare. Schools for black children were deliberately underfunded, designed to limit their opportunities. Hospitals and clinics in black areas were overcrowded and lacked basic resources. Life under apartheid was a daily struggle for survival. Section 4. The weight of the law. Apartheid wasn't just a set of ideas. It was a system enforced by a web of oppressive laws. The pass laws, for example, required Black South Africans to carry identification documents at all times. Failure to produce these documents on demand could lead to arrest, detention, or even worse. The government enacted a series of laws designed to suppress any form of dissent. People were arrested and imprisoned for simply speaking out against apartheid. Freedom of speech and assembly were non-existent. The security forces had sweeping powers to detain people without trial. Torture was commonplace, and many activists disappeared without a trace. Apartheid was a police state, where fear and intimidation were used to silence opposition. Section 5. Education's shackles. Education, instead of being a tool for empowerment, was twisted into a weapon of control. The Bantu Education Act of 1953 was designed to provide Black South Africans with an inferior education, one that would prepare them for a life of servitude. Black students were taught a curriculum that emphasized manual labor and obedience, while white students received a quality education that opened doors to opportunity. This deliberate denial of quality education had a devastating impact on generations of Black South Africans. The government's aim was clear: to create a workforce that knew its place, a workforce that would not challenge the status quo. The legacy of this unequal education system continues to cast a long shadow over South Africa today. Section 6. Land dispossession. One of the most devastating consequences of apartheid was the systematic dispossession of land from Black South Africans. This was not just a matter of losing property. It was a calculated strategy to strip away the very foundation of their existence and identity. The land was more than just a place to live. It was a source of sustenance, culture, and community. The Natives Land Act of 1913 and subsequent legislation stripped Black people of their ancestral lands, forcing them onto overcrowded reserves. These reserves were often located in the least fertile and most inhospitable parts of the country, making it nearly impossible for the displaced communities to sustain themselves. This act limited Black ownership of land to a mere 7% of the country, while white South Africans, who made up a smaller percentage of the population, owned the vast majority of the land. This gross disparity in land ownership was not just a statistic, it was a daily reality that affected every aspect of life for Black South Africans. This act had a profound impact on the lives of millions of Black South Africans, uprooting them from their homes and livelihoods. Families were torn apart, communities were fragmented, and the social fabric of Black society was irreparably damaged. The emotional and psychological toll of being forcibly removed from one's home cannot be overstated. This loss of land had a devastating economic impact on Black communities, trapping them in poverty and dependence. Without access to fertile land, many were forced into low-paying, menial jobs, often working for the very people who had taken their land. This created a cycle of poverty that was incredibly difficult to break. It was a policy designed to ensure the economic dominance of the white minority. By controlling the land, the white minority could control the economy, politics, and social structures of the country. This economic dominance was evident in the stark contrast between the affluent white neighborhoods and the impoverished Black communities. The legacy of this land dispossession continues to be a source of tension and inequality in South Africa today. Efforts to address this historical injustice through land reform have been met with resistance and controversy. The scars of land dispossession are still visible in the economic disparities and social tensions that persist in modern South Africa. The struggle for land and equality is far from over, and it remains a critical issue in the ongoing quest for justice and reconciliation in the country.